For 90 years we've wondered what our politicians would talk about if they stopped talking about the border, and now we know. As Stormont settles into at least a truce on the Constitution, the political focus turns increasingly to tax. In retrospect, this was inevitable. If we ever got something like a government, it would soon find out that without tax powers you can't do much governing. Stormont tried to avoid the issue, and it's still trying. Unlike the Scots, none of our party sought tax powers at devolution. Sinn Féin now says it wants all fiscal powers devolved from Britain, while the DUP talks of not breaking the link with Britain, both attempts to sideline the issue by making it green and orange. But the issue can't be sidelined, it's just too fundamental. Stormont is often mocked as a glorified county council, but even councils raise most of their income through the rates. All the rates Stormont collects come to just 5% of its income, so it's really more of a quango, just spending a budget. You can see the superficial attraction of that, with Stormont ministers getting the credit for doling out goodies and taking none of the blame for the size of the goodie bag or the taxman's hand in your pocket. But it just isn't sustainable if even a local government wants to be credible. The link between tax and spending is basic to democracy. Getting the public's consent to be taxed is how most democracies began. Stormont needs to make that link, not just because it might want more money, but because even the incentives of putting tax up or down intrude on everything serious it wants to do. If it wants more jobs, it needs lower corporation tax. If it wants more tourists, it needs to abolish airport taxes. And note how the pressure so far is to cut taxes, despite the leftist posturing of most of our parties and our entire so-called Civic Society. We are in fact a mean and conservative society, as the first signs of this first real issue have made clear. Sinn Féin wasn't serious last month when it asked for devolved fuel duty, but it asked for it to be cut at the expense of public spending. The supposedly socialist shinners know we're all tight little Tories at heart. The way a tax must be devolved to Stormont forces real hard choices onto the agenda. Stormont can keep all the revenue, but it loses the same amount from the block grant. Essentially, it trades subsidy for responsibility. But there's a limit to how much responsibility we can afford. Stormont is subsidised to the tune of £10 billion a year, more than all the taxes raised in Northern Ireland. Money is power, and that £10 billion is the measure of the power we can't have. So tax brings us back to the border, and how much it's worth to us to keep it. The slogan of the American Revolution was no taxation without representation. Stormont is representation without taxation, and it can't do anything revolutionary until that changes.